Hi, I'm John. I'm an engineer and I've got a few lockdown projects going on. I've got a playseat challenge and a T300RS steering wheel for my little gaming rig. The first project is a tactile transducer. I'm doing a handbrake and also a sequential shifter. So the gear stick I chose was from a Kia Sedona. The reason I chose it is because the base is quite small, so it's quite neat. But more importantly, it's got a straight gate, so none of the side movement that you don't need on a sequential shifter. I've also just seen that this particular one has its own detent, so it gives you that clump that you want for the sequential shifter, so I don't need to do anything new for that, which is really handy. So I'll just strip off the bits I don't need and see what it looks like. So here's the gear lever without all the stuff we don't need. So just the mechanism. Here you can see more clearly now the detent. So it's got a nice action. All it needs now is a spring loading to return it to the center. I'm going to use this pin here to limit the travel either way. It's the part of the gear selector mechanism on the original part. I'm quite lucky in that the design of this detent behind these screws, it's a slotted hole, so you can adjust it up and down. So just making sure that, there we go, I adjust it so that that's at one stop. So this is the one position, and then what I'll do is, so this is the neutral position, and then what I'll do is file away here, so the pin can come up to here for the other way. So it will be pretty much in that position, but without having to press the button in. So that's my motion now. So as you can see, I've just drilled and filed out this side here. So now we get a physical stop for the gear lever that lines up with the detent. For the centering force, I found a strong spring that fits just underneath the detent plate there to provide the self-centering. All I need to do is find a way to make a bracket so that I can put another spring on this top part here to self-center. And then what I'll do with the switches is use this side of the arm, get some brackets to, these are guitar foot switches, momentary push switch. So I'll just get some brackets to line those up with this part of the arm here. So you just want to make sure that with this travel that you get with a gear change, you find the place along here where you get the right travel for your switch. So I'm just going to remove some parts from the frame. There's quite a lot here I don't need, so I'll just cut those off. And on the detent plate, I'm just going to make a few notches for the spring to sit in there nicely. Okay, so the springs are now installed. They're just held in with a bolt and some washers either side. Obviously for the bottom spring, the position is fixed by the base plate. For the top spring, that's on a slidable bracket, which allows you to set the center position of the pin there. So the detent is now installed along with the springs. The springs are strong enough to overcome the detent, so it always returns to center, and it's quite a nice solid. There's no slack in there, but you still get a nice click action. Okay, so the switches are in place. They obviously use that part of the lever arm there. Make sure they're centered and aligned. I've also adjusted them so that when the gear lever is pulled, there's still a tiny bit more movement on the switch, so it doesn't bottom it out or press it too hard. Hopefully that's enough to fire the switch, and if not, it's very easy to adjust. So here's the finished handbrake, cleaned up, greased, ready to go. I ended up cutting down the bottom bracket a bit more, just to again reduce a bit more of the footprint. One thing I forgot to say before is I've chosen these push button switches. The other option for this is something like this, a on off on toggle switch. All you would need to do is drill a hole in the center there and pop that in. The reason I went for the push button is I believe it to be a bit more reliable than a toggle switch. If you do go toggle, just make sure you get a momentary non-latching, so it always returns to center. Then you're not relying on the action of the lever arm to pull it back to center, because you need to make the hole a little bit bigger just because the angle that this goes through. The handle is on. This is just an eBay normal M10 handle, but the bottom inch or so is about a 15mm diameter. So I just ground this shaft down a little bit, put some tape on there, and it's really nice snug push fit now. Okay, the gear shift is finally on the rig. From driver's height, it's a little bit shorter than the handbrake, and it's further towards the driver, so the two don't really get in the way. I had to adjust the switches again. It turned out they needed a bit more travel to fire, so ignore my previous advice. Get a multimeter out and check it, or plug it in before you put it all together. But now it's working absolutely fine. Clearance with the handbrake is very tight, which is why it's important to cut down the base as much as possible. Get a small footprint for a tidy install. Here you can see the clearance we've got. Just goes. But overall, seems to work okay, even with the single bolt here and the single bolt here. It's I mean, that's the whole frame moving. It's not the mounting itself. So there is a bit of movement, but to be honest, there's a bit of movement in the playseat anyway, so it's not too bad.
3, 2, 1, go. 30. 30, crest and 3 left long, and 5 right long, 30. 3 right, into 2 left, into 2 right, extra long, tightens cut, opens, 6 right, into 3 left long, opens over crest, 100, turn unseen, 2 left tightens.
So that's my video for the sequential shifter on the playseat challenge and T300RS. This project was a lot more difficult than the other two, the base shaker and the handbrake, because of the amount of fabrication and modifying needed, but also getting all the parts to work together. So the springs, the detent, the switches, the throw. So yeah, so it was quite difficult, but hopefully there's some useful hints and tips in what I've done. Unlike the others, this was a how I did it rather than a how to. I'm not sure you'll be able to find a Kia Sedona gear shift that easily, but the principles should still apply. And there's obviously other ways to do what I did. As with the others, this was quite a cheap and cheerful mod just to see if I could do it really. So good luck if you try it. As I said, with all the drilling and grinding and cutting, stay safe and make sure you know what you're doing. And if you don't, get someone else to do it. But yeah, good luck if you try it, and thanks for watching.